Welcome to the Returning to Hashem podcast. Today's episode is REUVEN. REUVEN is a righteous convert that converted 17 years ago, and he lives in a Hasidic community in Williamsburg. REUVEN has been studying Torah for many years now, but when he heard some of Rabbi Reuven's lectures, he decided to become a loyal follower. We're very excited to have him here with us today and to share his story with us. So without further ado, let's get into it. So today we have REUVEN with us. REUVEN has been a Ger Tzedek for 17 years now. He lives in a Hasidic community in Williamsburg. And REUVEN, thank you very much for taking your time and joining us today on this podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's an honor when, Rabbi REUVEN messaged me and asked me to come on the podcast. It was a big honor. And, I'm glad to be, this is, if not the only, one of the few really kosher podcasts out there. You have these other ones I've seen that come on YouTube in my feed, and modern Orthodox guys, talking face to face, looking at women, and so Baruch Hashem, I'm on the only kosher podcast out there.
Baruch Hashem. REUVEN, if you don't mind, let's start off telling us a little bit more about yourself and about the details, what life was like before you did tshuva and all those fun details.
So I'm originally from Lewis, Delaware. That's about 4.5 hours from New York. And so my father's Jewish and my mother's not, so that's why I had to convert. My parents divorced when I was very young. I ended up moving with my father, but I was raised, and in the beginning, my mother's parents were very religious Catholics. So when I was a kid, I'd sometimes go to church with my mother's mother, and I went to Sunday school a little bit, but I was only a child, so it was kind of boring. And my mother, she's not religious. She only does the holidays and stuff, but not in a religious way, just for fun. And so I knew my father was Jewish. He didn't he doesn't keep anything, but he used to have he used to like the menorah on Hanukkah, not as a mitzvah or anything, just because my mother had a tree, so he had a menorah because he's Jewish. I knew he was Jewish, but I didn't know what Jewish meant. It was just a word, Jewish. So when I was around 12 and a half, I started searching on the internet, what does this mean, Jewish? And, I found some websites, from Chabad. There was, they used to have a website, Ask Moses, where you could, ask rabbis any questions you wanted to, a one-on-one chat. And this was in the old days, the internet was new, so you had the phone cable that was connected to the computer, and it very slow. You couldn't speak on the phone where you were online. So yeah, 20 years ago, there was also I want to get back to the so the only thing Jewish there was a Reform unaffiliated temple. And so they accepted me as Jewish. They say if your father's Jewish, you're also Jewish, which we know is not true, but that's what they held. So they gave me a bar mitzvah, and they taught me to read Hebrew. And and as I was learning more on the internet, I came to the conclusion that this is not real Yiddishkeit. So I was at home, I was learning more on the internet. I got some English Sfarim. I was trying to do the most I could. I got my own dishes to try to keep kosher, and, Shabbos, I wasn't Jewish yet, so I had to do a malacha, but, I would try to keep Shabbos. And, I put on a kippah when I went to public school. Still, I was wearing a kippah all the time. And,
Wait, and this is all at 12 years old?
Throughout the process up until 15.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
So, once I was 15, my father's mother, she's Jewish, and she used to live in Kew Gardens Hills in Queens, and then she moved to Forest Hills. So I went to her house for the summer, and I wanted to convert, but in Delaware there was nothing nowhere to go to convert. So I ended up meeting a Orthodox rabbi in Queens, Rabbi Bloom, and actually his shul is where Rabbi Mizrahi used to speak for many years, and in Rego Park. And I guess it was 5 or 6 years ago, when Rabbi REUVEN came to Queens to speak, he spoke there, and that's where I met him in person. So
that was the first time you met him.
Yeah, that was the first time when you came there.
That was the first time you actually heard.
No, it wasn't the first time. Like, so first I was listening to Rabbi Mizrahi. Like, I was already, for many years when I started, like, listening to Rabbi Mizrahi. But I remember, like, in the beginning, like, Rabbi Bloom took me to a lecture from Rabbi Mizrahi. I don't remember if it was before the Geiros or after the Geiros, but it was, like, right when, like, Or Natan opened up there in Regal Park. And so I remember I saw him in person, but then like many years later, like a friend told me about him, and I started listening to him on Torah anytime. Like I didn't have a smartphone or internet for a long time either. Like after I converted. So Torah Anytime has a phone line also that you can hear on like a plain flip phone. So I was listening
Yeah.
to Rabbi Rafi's lectures on there, and he was talking about Rabbi Reuven in one of his lectures. So Rabbi Reuven is also in turn any time on the hotline. So I was I was checking him out, and I liked what I heard. I liked how he spoke very strong and said the truth and everything. I guess
Yeah.
that's when I first started listening to Rabbi Reuven also. So Rabbi Bloom took me to Avad Rabbanim of Queens. Uh, and they said like I can't go back to Delaware if I want to convert. So first I have to go to yeshiva. So he introduced me to the Chofetz Chaim yeshiva in Queens. There was a beginner's shiur with Rabbi Mines. Like he had his like group of guys there in the Chofetz Chaim Beis Medrash there, and like he would learn with them the whole day. And like teach them how to learn. So that was in the summer, and so I started learning there, and my father still wanted me to finish high school because I was only 15 at the time. So Chofetz Chaim has many branches around the whole like country. So I found a
Mhm.
branch in New Jersey that like accepted me even before I was Jewish. Since I was in the process, and I was learning there for like half a year, and then like before Pesach, I came back to Queens, and that's when I converted when I was already 16.
So you went from Rabbi Mizrahi to Rabbi Reuven, and that's basically what kind of gave you that extra push to continue because of the strong Musar and what they were saying was compatible with what you liked it, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, that gave me also a lot of strength because, like, without going in detail, I have been through some difficulties through my journey over the years, and hearing like that strong Musar and like what happened, about Gehenna and all that stuff, it has inspired me and kept me strong. Actually, I was listening to the lecture today from our REUVEN that he gave last night, and he's talking how like the other rabbis, they think they know what you can handle, and Rabbi Reuven's like, how do you know what he can handle, like, so they think they know what people can handle when they don't know.
I mean, you would think, okay, this is the Torah and this is what it says and this is what we have to follow and go by. Why modify? Exactly like you said, you don't know these people. You don't know what might trigger them. And you're a perfect example because it worked for you.
Right, it did.
Would you say that they have that same kind of ideology in Hasidic communities in general?
Maybe they don't talk as much about Gehenna, but like they don't like sugarcoat and water down stuff like other places do. Like it's
Got it.
still try to be like the way it was and not like modernize it, Americanize it and stuff like they do in like these more modern places.
So, what do you think would happen if you didn't find Rabbi Reuven and his lectures and his Musar?
What do I think? I mean, good question. I mean, with those, like, some of those difficult times, I mean, it sure, like, has strengthened me. So, I'm glad I did find it.
Living in a Hasidic community.
I mean, well, let me, like, go back a little bit. So, I mean, I was already in a Chassidish community, like, everything, like, before I found, like, Rabbi Reuven. That first time I heard Rabbi Mizrahi, like that, I didn't really listen to him much until like many years later after I was already, in a Chassidish community and everything, and like, how I look now and everything. But then I started listening to him on Tour Anytime on the hotline, and then that's when I found Rabbi Reuven also.
What kind of like personal help did you get? Well, when did you get in contact with Rabbi Reuven? Has he helped you personally in any way?
So I guess without like mentioning names or anything, so um, I was looking for a shidduch online, because as I had mentioned, like I have a YouTube channel, which I'm trying to build up a little bit. But I had mentioned like what it's like to be a convert in the Hasidic community, and I mentioned how usually they won't marry a convert under normal circumstances. So that's why I was looking online for a shidduch. Maybe I could find someone like a Gioris or a Baal Tshuva or someone. So there was one website. It's very hard because if you look at all the profiles online, there are all these modern people, and there are all these ladies that are not modest with like long wig, long hair, and whatever, all the stuff that's against the Torah. And like they put in their profile, well, they want a guy who's like college educated and has a career and likes to watch Netflix and all this garbage. So I found one woman who was very religious and who is a student of Rabbi Reuven. The only thing is like the age difference was like very big, the age gap, and there were some other things that wouldn't have worked out. So that was also one of the reasons I met Rabbi Reuven in person, just to meet him and see what he thinks. And of course, with some of the things that were involved, he didn't think it would work out, so it didn't work out. But so that's like the first time I actually met him in Queens. And I also met him one other time, that that lecture where it was like him, Rabbi Mizrahi, and Rabbi Nova. So I was there.
Yeah. Oh, you are? Me too.
Yeah.
It was a good one. Is that where you is that close to where you live? I'm not familiar with the area.
No, it's like, I mean, it's probably like a 15-20 minute drive from Williamsburg to Queens. So I mean, if there's no traffic, it's not that far. So I think at the story I was like left off. I went back to in the yeshiva there, and I converted. So I went back and was learning in in that beginner's year in Chovetz Chaim. And there was also in Forest Hills a Satmar yeshiva. So I always was fascinated by Hasidim, and I wanted to see what was there. So I went in there, and somebody invited me for Shabbos. Ever since then I've been in Williamsburg. Like I really enjoyed it and everything. And of course I was still learning there in the beginner's year, because they don't have like in Williamsburg anything for beginners to learn. Because you still have to they start like when they're young and cheder, and someone who starts later on still needs like something for bachuvas. But then later on I went and I was learning in the big Satmar yeshiva. So I was learning there a few years until I had gotten married, and I was in Koilo for a while. And I was and I was looking for something to do for Parnassa, and I found a job in which I'm like a home health aide for somebody. So I have like a lot of time to learn also with him and take him to shul, and so Baruch Hashem for that. Like I'm not like all day having to do some type of other work. I get a lot of time to learn too, and I've been doing that for 8 years. Yeah,
it's a mitzvah job.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. And I had gotten divorced and remarried. I got remarried it's almost been a year. So Baruch Hashem, I found my my wife, and she's also a convert, and she also enjoys listening to Rabbi Reuven's lectures.
It's hard to find that. Reuven, it's hard to find people that have that kind of ideology nowadays.
Yeah, that's very hard.
Not such a simple thing.
Yeah, someone who's actually modest, who wears a kisei rosh and not some like long wig, longer than the exile, like Rabbi Reuven likes to say.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the generation.
Yeah, unfortunately. And that's one of the hard things with being a ger is like you see, like how low the generation is, how much like the people that are born religious, you see like, how it's not how you expected it would be. So you just have to stay strong and and learn and and not pay attention, because you have to understand like they're not representing Hashem or the Torah or anything. They're actually going against it. So like not to learn from them.
Also, I think an issue that we have is that people don't really sit and learn and study as much as they should.
That's true.
Sometimes I've seen lectures. People come and they ask, the rabbi a question. And they say, okay, how much do you learn? Can you start learning now 2 hours a day? Every single day. Can you learn for 2 hours a day? And they're like, That's a little hard. That's a little heavy to take upon myself. And you look at this person, and he's full on, Hasidish. He looks like the guy is in studying 10 hours a day.
Right.
But I'm watching this, and I'm like, you don't even wait. So this person doesn't even study 2 hours a day. So what's going on here? And then we wonder why we have so many problems.
I mean, a lot of these people that dress Hasidish, they dress like that because that's how like their fathers dress and their family dresses like that. Even if themselves inside are not really such a big level, they just do it. That's how their family goes.
And you think that's very common?
It's becoming more and more common, especially with the younger generation. Because I'm already here for like 17 years a year, so like I see the difference between the people like my age and like the younger people. A lot of them, how like it's the Rita Sadoras, how it's like going further down.
Yeah. Ruben, I wanted to ask you a question real quick. How did your parents, what happened with your parents?
So my father, he was very supportive of my choice. As long as it's I'm happy, he's happy. But my mother's side, they're not Jewish, so they weren't like as accepting at the beginning. So, Baruch Hashem, today I'm like, I have a good relationship with my mother and my father and everybody, so they're very happy for me now. And
Oh,
my father also once had said, he sees like the other people, my age that's, they're not religious, and he sees me, so he's happy, that I am how I am. I'm not like, in jail on drugs and, all this stuff like the Goyim are.
yeah,
And
right.
he's even not religious, but he sees like what's going on in the public schools, with all this like gender nonsense and whatever. So he said, I have actually a son, so he said it's so good that my son's actually in yeshiva and cheder and not, in the public schools.
Right, for sure. It's so dangerous. It's so true. The Torah says that it's like murdering the kid. Unfortunately, if you send him to
Yeah,
public school. And now we see.
right. I mean, public school is like a million times worse than when I was in there because when I was in public school, there was no such thing as like transgenders or anything. There were like maybe a few gays, but besides for that, like you didn't really hear all this. It wasn't like pushed down your throat.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like in Rehoboth, Delaware, that's like known as a big gay community also, but it wasn't like
And
it is today.
did you tell me about the personal help that you got from Rabbi Reuven? Besides
Um,
the shidduch thing, was there more, or that was?
yeah, like I ask him questions a lot. He answers me on WhatsApp, and I even when I started getting more serious with my videos on YouTube, he actually gave me some advice, on the videos. So I mean, he's very busy. I know he has like thousands of messages a day, but it looks like he took out his time to to watch my videos, and and give me advice on them.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't do stuff like that, what's the point of what he does? That.
Right, yeah. And like he's always like you can get messages like late at night, early in the morning. Like I don't know when he has time to sleep or anything, he's always available.
Almost every single person that's been on a podcast said the same exact thing.
Right,
We question when he sleeps, if he does.
right.
Crazy, crazy. Let's see. So, throughout your whole journey now, 17 years plus, what kind of hardship, what kind of challenges did you have to overcome? Was there any difficulty that you want to share?
Yeah, well, I was going through like a very bad like marriage, which it was like very depressing and stuff. So but like hearing like this strong musser is like it's very helpful, like when a person's like depressed, like they don't have like the enthusiasm to do what they normally do. So when you hear like about what's going to happen, you don't do this, you do this, you're going to go to Gehenna and get punished and all that, like it's like no, I'd rather not do that.
Do you study the Tanya?
Yes, I actually study it. I try like if I get to doing it, I try to do it every day now. I mean, so basically, I also like I'll send like quotes from the Tanya to REUVEN, like showing like how Manus Friedman is incorrect when he says God needs you, because there was actually a time when Manus was like before he was a heretic, when he was like more kosher in the old days. And he has like contradicting himself. And on Chabad.org, they have like his old like Tanya Shurim, and I have to look back and when it was and what chapter and everything. But it basically says there that God doesn't need anything from us. And and in his lecture today, he says God needs every lecture. God needs you and all this stuff. So I showed that to Rabbi Reuven, and now he contradicted himself. Tanya's is not. It's not only Chabad. Like all types of Hasidim learn it.
Sure.
Like not only Chabad learns it.
It shouldn't be limited to anybody.
Right.
It's not like you could say the Shulchan Aruch is only for Sephardics.
Right.
No, it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Hashem. One big Torah. Any other challenges in terms of like doing the tshuva? Was there tshuva?
Like, I mean, I started taking on stuff like before I was Jewish. Like, I really wanted to do it. Like, even though like before you're Jewish, you don't really have to, eat kosher or do all this stuff. I mean, if you're converting, you have to practice. But yeah, so I always like it was like I always loved doing mitzvahs and loved learning and davening and everything. So it wasn't like that hard in the beginning because I really wanted it, even though I was very young at the time.
And you're talking about early on.
Yeah, when I was like 16, when I first went to the mikveh at 16.
Interesting. What is it that you think? Maybe I missed it. I apologize. What is it that made you want to actually pursue becoming more and more taking more
I
upon
mean,
yourself?
ever since I learned what like Jewish is, like I learned more and more about the mitzvahs and about the Torah, about Hashem, and I just like fell in love with it. And I mean, my father's grandparents, my grandmother's parents, so they were religious in Europe, but then when they came to America, they dropped everything and became not religious. On my grandmother's side, my grandfather's side, I actually did some research and like on ancestry, and I found that I have a great great grandfather from like 250 years ago. His name was Rabbi Yitzchak Rambam, and he was actually a ger, and he was a Rav in Amsterdam.
Hmm.
And so there's a whole story like
Wow.
his father, like when he was his like young, and like his mother was on her deathbed, she told him like to study the Tanakh, and so he for a while he forgot about it, and then like she came to him in a dream and told him, how come you're not studying Tanakh? And he started learning it, and like he wasn't like Jewish, but he lived in Sweden, and like in those days it was like forbidden against the law to convert to Judaism in most European countries. So he was like he changed like the Sabbath to Saturday, and was like eating kosher and stuff, and he had a whole big family. And finally, him and his kids, some of his kids got out of Sweden. They got passports and were able to go to Amsterdam, because Amsterdam was more liberal at the time, so you were allowed to convert. So he was already in his 70s when he converted, and his youngest son Yitzchak, he was 13 at the time when he converted, and then he had like his own private rabbis that were learning with him, and he ended up becoming a big Talmid Chacham. I only found that out like a few years ago.
And this is from the website ancestry.com. Is that what you said?
Ancestry is one of them, and there's another one called Geni, Geni, and I found like some cousins in Amsterdam, and to confirm the stuff. And he wrote a sefer called Zera Yitzchak, which he writes on what is it called? The three pillars, Torah, Avodah, Gemilas, Chasodim.
Wait, so is that those things actually work?
Hmm?
Like it's real?
These ancestry websites,
Yeah.
they can work. I mean, if you find like a little bit like back, like I knew my grandfather, his parents' names were Harry and Jenny, and then I found Jenny Garrettson all the way back, her father Henry Garrettson, and then David Yosef Garrettson, and all the way back to so Rav Yitzchak Rambam, his daughter married a Garrettson, so that's where like how I'm descended from him
Wow.
to the Garrison family. But I actually have right here. Here's a picture of him. Is it better now?
That's what they showed you?
Yeah, online. It's actually from like a mold or something, that a wax mold that someone made, and it was held in the family for years, and now it's in some
Wow.
museum in Amsterdam.
Wow. Very cool.
And actually in Hebrew books, I found his Sefer Zera Yitzchak, so I made some copies of it, and it's like this very old print. So if one day I get the money, I'd like to get it like reprinted and edited a little bit so it's clearer.
So you weren't able to like read it or learn it?
No, I do, but it's like not so clear. It's I mean I you have to like kind of work on it to decipher some of it. But
Mm, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So now what's your story now? Well, now you live in a community, you're married, you're keeping Torah and Mitzvot, you're learning, you're listening to Rabbi Reuven, you're growing. Is all this sound right?
yeah, Baruch Hashem. I mean, I also have Rabbanim here that I'm close with. So Baruch Hashem.
Do you have kids?
I have one son from my previous marriage,
Hmm.
so I hope Mi'at Hashem to have more. And Hashem runs the world, so like what future is now, I mean, I'm not sure, but I'll find out. I mean, I noticed someone had posted yesterday that Rabbi Reuven's like the new Bezrat Hashem yeshiva they're trying to build now, and a new community and everything. So
Yeah.
that looks interesting.
Zat Hashem, it'll work soon. Zat Hashem. Let's see. So, what are some goals, Reuven, that you have now or that you're pursuing now from here on out?
I mean, so I'm learning for smicha. So Mi'at Hashem, I'm in the middle of Basa B'cholov and Teruvis, and I hope to like finish it hopefully around Hanukkah, or maybe a little after Hanukkah. And I'll have smicha Mi'at Hashem, and I just keep learning more and more, and growing in avodas Hashem, and see what Hashem has down the road for me.
What kind of advice would you give to other people?
Yeah, so I mean, just keep on growing and learning. Learn as much as you can. Listen to Shurim as much as you can. Don't get discouraged by these, like modern rabbis who just want to tell you what you want to hear and say, "Oh, don't listen to Rabbi Reuven because he's extreme," and all this stuff, or what all the things they like to say. Don't listen to those people. Stay away from the heretic rabbis on the heretic list, and just keep growing.
So, what about when you have people like we spoke about earlier, where they dress the part, they look the part, but they don't really do exactly what they're supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not limiting it to them. Okay, like everybody, they they do all the things that they need to do, but they're not really there.
Right.
What about those people? What would you say to them if you could?
Oh, good question. So, I don't know. A lot of it might not be so much their fault. Is that like they're just grown? They grew up like that. They're taught you have to say these words before you eat, but they really don't know so much what they're saying. They're told you have to,
Mhm.
like go to shul and say these words in the siddur every day, but they're not. They just want to get it done as fast as possible and think they, accomplish something. But really just think what you're doing. You have to also listen to lectures and learn. Chassidish Sfarim are good to learn, and just keep learning and actually learn what you're doing, and instead of just doing it out of routine.
That's the problem. We become robots.
Right. And also like when you're in like from communities like in New York, like it's more you have to try to fit in and be like everybody else. It's more like, like communal, you're doing it because it's like a cultural community thing and not so much, like a relationship with Hashem.
There's a lot of details and a lot of kavanot that you have to have in mind by just saying
Right.
a basic blessing.
Right.
Where we're
And it's
lucky if
hard.
we're gonna have one good solid blessing when we get up there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not easy, but like there's a, like you see people all the time talking during davening instead of actually
yeah,
davening,
yeah.
like
That's
if they
another big
actually
problem.
do, they'd get like a sitter that has like translation and actually focus on what they're saying, and they wouldn't be talking as much.
That's true. There was a discussion I had with somebody else on a podcast. Same exact thing.
Right.
When I first started going, I was studying the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch,
Right.
and I learned all these things where you're not supposed to talk, and it's very, very bad, and ruins everyone. There's no, there's no punishment fit for that kind of person. All those good things, and I was like, oh, okay, great. So now I'm going to start going, and I should expect to see all these things, right? But then
And then
I
big
would go there
surprise when you
super.
get there.
It was very disappointing, especially as a
Actually,
first starter.
I heard that in there's the Klausenberger Rebbe in Borough Park, like he's a big tzaddik, big Talmid Chacham. So once there was a guy talking during davening, he went and grabbed him and threw him out. And then the guy actually came back and apologized.
If
So
only
I
we
think,
had leaders like that today,
yeah.
that's the problem.
I mean, you have some Rebbes that like I've heard that like they walk around during davening, and then when the people see the Rebbe coming, they stop.
Yeah, so I don't know. I would go super pumped, and then I would leave a little upset, to be honest with you.
Right. I mean, I guess the main thing, just like, don't look at the other people because almost every shul has that. They have the guys in the back that are talking. And I guess like sit more towards the front and, stop and then don't look back. I do want to, like, as of right now, I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel. So as of now, it's RYLS Teller. My name Reuven Yitzchak with my wife's name Leah Sprinza. Teller on YouTube. So I'm trying to put out more and more videos to try to build up with more views and subscribers and stuff. And I'm trying to say, I bring from Hasidic Sfarim or other things that I learn and try to share it with people.
When
So
did Mhm.
so I had another one, and which I kind of, I guess I just kind of like stopped using. And then once I got married, my wife made a like channel with both of our names together. So I decided, let me start again and start making videos. And hopefully, a lot of people, are asking me to, keep it up, and they like what I'm like. I've started saying parts of Taras HaKodesh by Baron wrote on Shmir Sanaim and Shmir Sabris. And people are getting chizuk from that. They like it. So I mean, if I can inspire people to become close to Hashem, it's all worth it.
How long has the channel been going for?
This one like a few months. Yeah, I mean, and with the advice from Rabbi Reuven, I hope it gets better after the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you in contact with Rabbi Reuven like frequently?
Yeah, I message him quite frequently, and he answers like sometimes like with a few minutes after, sometimes maybe a few hours, depending, I guess, how busy he is. But yeah, it's nice to get such a fast answer.
What kind of questions would you ask Rabbi Reuven versus asking a local rabbi?
Oh, good question. So a lot of local rabbis, especially in the Hasidic community, are not so familiar when it comes to like I guess more like in Kiruv and people that are like outside the Hasidic community. So there's like such questions which like a local Rav is not like so experienced in, which I can ask Rabbi Reuven such questions.
Are you in touch with Rabbi Mizrahi or not?
Sometimes I'll message him. He also answers like very fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was like maybe like a year or two ago. I was by one of his lectures in Ornotan in Queens.
Are you near where he gives his lectures now?
Maybe about 15-minute, 20-minute drive. But like I don't drive, so if I do go, I take like an Uber. In New York, you don't really have to drive. I mean, it's not worth it. It costs a lot of money, and I don't really have to go out of Williamsburg so often.
What are you learning now?
So
What's your
right
learning
now,
schedule?
okay, so right now I'm learning Chulin, the laws like about like shchita and kosher and stuff. I mean, I started learning like years ago, like probably, I don't know, like over maybe 14 years ago. I was learning with this program. They had a local program where like you learn an Amud a day. And, so I started Yevamos. And, I just learned through up until like, I ended almost this whole Seder, Noshim, Nizikin, I ended. And now, Kodshim, like I'm learning more than just Na'amud.
One guy already took on himself to complete the Shas in a single year. He already is every day he sends me that he completed 7 dapim. So now he's at day 14. He just completed 7 pages in one day. 7 dapim, not pages. 7 dapim. That's really 28.
Blot or two a day. Because this other program, they also like, they'll give like time for Zara, like Friday, they have no, new Amud. Shabbos no new Amud, so like I wanted to go like ahead a little bit and learn more. So now I'm just learning my own Seder. I tried to learn, every day Chumash Rashi, Chasidus Svarim, Yerushalmi. I try to learn a page of Zohar every day. And also,
So when
like I smicha too, like Hilchas
yeah,
Tarubis and Hilchas Basa B'cholov. So I actually I have a few chavrusas I learn with on the phone, like in the morning. Like I try to daven v'sikin every day, so I'm up very early. And after I finish davening, I learn with a guy on the phone who lives in Texas, so he's an hour behind me. And then like in the evening, I try to learn like an hour with a guy on the phone from California.
what time do you wake up every day?
About now, like about 4.
4? Nice.
Yeah, I go to the mikvah, and I have a vasikin koilo here, where they you have to daven there and also learn there, and they pay you to do it. Like I was davening vasikin before that, but I found this koilo, so like I can do what I would normally do and also get a little check also.
So when you get your smicha now, what's your plan? What are you gonna do with it?
I mean, for now, I don't know. I mean, whatever, it's just good to have the basic smicha, learning, the Issa V'Heter.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe you're gonna be a shochet or something. I don't know.
I mean,
There's
it's
plenty
not
of
for sure.
different ones.
This is like the basic stuff. Basa B'chov, Teruvis, Machoy Akum. I finished,
Yeah,
and Hilchas Shabbos.
but you can get a smicha to be a shochet, right?
Yeah, yeah. Also, if you want to be a shochet, but like, yeah, that's also to be a shochet, you have to like move out a lot of like if you want to do like cows, you have to move out like in the Midwest or like other like Argentina, like be there like the whole week and then only come home for Shabbos. So that's like not easy.
Wow.
Because you don't really like check so many cows here in New York.
Do you know at what point during the whole process of learning how to be a shochet do they actually start?
I'm not sure when they start.
I mean, I'm assuming towards the end, right? You're not just going to slaughter a bunch of cows. That's correct. Is there a final message or anything that you would want to share or say to somebody that's maybe similar to your situation that you might be able to help or guide or warn?
Yeah, I mean, I would say maybe for other people that are converting, unless you're like 100% sincere and ready to give up your goyish lifestyle and you're ready to give up, going to, watching Netflix and, going to baseball games and football games, all that stuff. And, then there's no reason, no point to convert, be ready to learn all the time as much as you can. And in my opinion, a woman that's not ready to put on a ticho or a mitpachat or whatever word you want to refer to it as kisarosh, then they shouldn't convert. If they want to just put on a long wig, then stay goya. What do you have to convert to look like a goya for? Yeah,
And do you think learning Rabbi Reuven's lectures and his teachings would help with that?
of course. Yeah, they should listen. I think that's one of the best speakers in English that they should listen to. They'll learn a lot. Learn like real Torah Judaism. Not some sugar coated, watered down modern stuff.
Yeah,
Like you don't hear
exactly.
like I was listening. Like the the Jewish intimacy share, like, like it's amazing, actually hear that stuff in the English language, like, like it's, I guess you don't hear that anywhere else, like it's amazing.
Yeah, that's the good thing about the organization is that they definitely help people in many different ways. And one of those ways is to give those different kind of style, I guess you could say, kind of unheard of topic.
Right. Like, and I was telling someone, like in the English language, like in Yiddish, you hear a lot of like kosher stuff. And I guess someone, like for Sfardim who know like Hebrew, and you hear in Hebrew, but in English, there's not really, such real hardcore, kosher stuff. It's more of these like, rabbis that tell you what you want to hear. Like there's no punishment, no Gehenna. Gehenna is just like an embarrassment or a washing machine type of stuff. And don't talk about wasting seed. That's mostly in Yiddish or in Hebrew. But like Baruch Hashem, you have REUVEN who actually gives over, real Torah in the English language.
I mean, people can find all this stuff themselves. They just gotta sit and open the book. Priority, people gotta learn Musar. Basically, is what you're saying, right?
Right. Also wanted to compliment, how this podcast is only men actually, showing themselves on video. Not like, all these other places where women, long wigs and not sneers and everything, sitting there showing themselves on the internet for all, I mean, they have to be like, for instance, there's like Chabad couples, they'll go and they think they're teaching, Hasidic, they call themselves, Hasidic Judaism, and I think it's misrepresenting Hasidim, people that don't know any better, so Baruch Hashem, for this, also on my YouTube channel, my wife was thinking, of course she's not going to go on video or anything, but, just like to do speech and audio and talk, say some stuff, without showing herself. So I think that's very good that, you actually do it the right way.
Well, I mean, if she does have something interesting that she wants to share, she can always, we have the women's.
Right, yeah.
So if you want, we could definitely get something going there.
Yeah, that would be, I have to, look into that.
Sure. All right, Reuven. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out of your evening to, come on here and share.
Hashem, like, it wasn't easy. We had a lot of technical difficulties with my filter and everything, and Baruch Hashem, it finally worked.
We had a lot of obstacles, but we learned one thing: whatever filter you have, it's a really good filter.
Yeah, it's called Gentech Solution, so you can look it up if you want to have a filter, and you can have like a whitelist, whichever websites you need. It lets that through and blocks everything else. So
Baruch Hashem. All right, we'll look into it. Reuven, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your evening, and if you need something, we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care. A very special thank you to all our amazing guests who show real Ahavat Yisrael by taking the time out of their busy schedules and sharing their ups and downs with us, all for the sake of Am Yisrael. May Hashem continue to bless you 1,000-fold. If you enjoyed this video, you can find more of these podcasts on our website at www.bizrathashem.org. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel to hear more highly influencing lectures and stories like the one you heard here today. Thank you for watching, and Bezrat Hashem, may we all have the merit to return to Hashem.